Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the very first edition of DFS, or in other words, Daily Fantasy Saturday. We're going to be going over three different types of lineups that you can set for daily fantasy. You got your 50-50 shots, which is where you want to send the most safe lineups, their contest lineups, and deep shot $1 million lineups. We're going to go for floor lineups, higher upside lineups, and to the moon lineups. Depending on what contest you're in, you're going to want to set your lineup differently. You could have a hunch that this player could be doing good, but depending on how pricey they are or how much more valuable they are than the other, then you're going to want to sway in a whole different direction. So without further ado, I'm going to open up a screen recording real quick. 1 second. All right, we are recording. Okay, so now we are going to be setting our 50-50 lineup. So this is, and again, I'm using Yahoo Fantasy for this, but if you're using FanDuel, DraftKings, prices should be pretty similar, but it's not about the prices, but more about the concepts of how we're building our lineups. So for 50-50 lineups, we're going to want to go with volume plays, safe options there where we know we're not going to get screwed over by one player, because that's what kills lineups. The winning lineups are the ones where you get production out of all your guys, or maybe production out of 8 guys, maybe one could get 0, but we want that to be like our defense. We don't want one of these guys. We want to get points out of these guys. So we're going to look for cheap but high upside kind of guys. All right, so let's take a look at this list. We're going to build around the running backs for this lineup. We'll do another one that builds around the wide receivers, but we're going to start with the running backs. And we're going to look for bargains here. So you kind of look down. Again, a lot of these guys are like splitting carries, but then let's take a look at a guy like Mike Davis. So he's playing Philly, who's got a good rush defense, but I get the feeling that the Falcons aren't going to use him as a straight up the gut rusher, but more of a pass catcher. And since this is PPR, and we know that the Falcons like him a lot, so much that they cut Quadre Olison, however you say his name. They really believe in Mike Davis for whatever reason, but he was productive last year, and we're going to add him to the lineup and kind of as a build around, because $17, that's very cheap for a guy that could experience a high amount of volume, especially in a game which I believe is going to be a shootout, a defensive shit show. And now, Austin Eckler, there are concerns about him not practicing this whole week. We're going to check the news real quick, but like I believe so. He returned to practice Friday. If he plays, he's absolutely worth this spot, and he was my first round pick in one of my drafts this year. I'm absolutely inserting him into the lineup. That's another, again, this is a PPR version of this, so we want guys that can get catches. Eckler's certainly a guy, and we know Washington's defense is pretty elite, but when you're getting catches in PPR, it doesn't matter how elite the defense is. He's going to put the points up on the board, and he's got the touchdown upside, and we know Justin Herbert loves throwing to him. So we have that out of the way. Now, before we go to wide receiver, we're going to want to fill our tight end position next. Where can we go at tight end that will be like, again, like kind of like a bargain play? Not too much of a bargain, but somebody who will get the volume. And I'm looking at TJ Hawkinson here. Hawkinson is going to lead the team in targets this year easily. Hawkinson is miles ahead of any talent they have, and Jared Goff, I could see him relying on Hawkinson, especially with the lack of wide receivers they have. It doesn't matter if they're going up against San Francisco, because keep in mind, I'm expecting this game to be a blowout, and in blowouts, that means tons of garbage time, tons of opportunities for Hawkinson to get receptions, and again, this is PPR. We want volume. We're going to go Hawkinson. I can't believe he's that low. I think it's just because of the defense, but that's a great price for him. So look at this. We are our average salary is about 22, and we've increased our salary by getting these cheap players, cheap volume plays. So now that we got guys like these, we can we can go. Let's go for the cheapest defense first of all, because defenses are very random. So we don't want to pay up for defense. Um, Look at this. Well, we don't want to stack defense with one of the players that are playing in our lineup. So we're gonna avoid the 49ers, but they'll be in our lineup because $12. That's so cheap. Um, Denver's cheap, $13 compared to some of these other teams. They're gonna get so many sacks and potential touchdown potential. So now look, our average salary is 26. We can pay up for great wide receivers in PPR and be in a really good spot. So let's just start selecting some guys that we like. AJ Brown, not Tennessee, Arizona is struggling at corner. Malcolm Butler is retired. It's their weakest position. AJ Brown's got going off potential. Same game, Hopkins. Love Hopkins this week. Hopkins is going to be a PPR monster this year, and Tennessee has no one that can cover him. And then let's go with another guy, maybe on the cheaper end, so we can again pay up for these other positions. Deebo Samuel, I wanted to get somebody from San Francisco because they're going to destroy Detroit, and I want somebody to be a beneficiary of that. Deebo can definitely be that. All right, so that's a high upside guy. Now we got $58 left for our last two players, so we got plenty of room to operate. So we're gonna go quarterback first. Again, when you're doing daily fantasy, we should try to stack as much as we can, because stacks will lead to a higher upside in general. When you're doing 50-50s, you can go for like a guy like Kyler Murray with Hopkins, because again, it'll be a popular stack in a larger pool, but in a 50-50 shot where you're just trying to get above the competition, the upside's there. We like this, but if we're going in for a higher, like a moonshot kind of lineup, we don't want to do a stack like this because everyone's going to have that. We want a stack like this to fail, and we want an underrated stack to pull through. But we'll do that in a second. So now we got $24. Let's just fill our lineup with some other guy. Who else can we do? Let's do Adam Thielen. He's got touchdown upside. I don't think he'll have the greatest fantasy year. I think his numbers will regress. But Cincinnati's not a great defense. I'm comfortable putting him as my flex, especially in PPR. We're going to go ahead and save this lineup. And good. So that's our 50-50 lineup. Again, this is entered into a 50K guaranteed, but that was made with the purpose of winning a 50-50 shot. Now we're going to go for more of like a middling lineup, something where we're in a big competition and we want to try to place in the money. So let's see, my contest upcoming, and you're going to see I made some lineups already. This is just for fun, but we're going to go ahead and start over to show you how I constructed these lineups. And this lineup's going to probably look pretty similar. So when in a bigger league, we're going to want to go for guys who probably aren't going to be owned too much. So looking here, who's someone cheap that we can get? Another option. Somebody like, running back's always tough, especially a year like this, but someone who might not be highly owned could be a guy like Melvin Gordon. And I think Melvin Gordon's starting job will be overtaken, but as of now, he is the starter. It's week 1, and I think the Broncos could be in good position to score multiple touchdowns. So I like a guy like Gordon, and someone else who I think won't be owned very highly will be Joe Mixon. People are generally down on Joe Mixon, but he's the bell cow there. $24 compared to some of these other guys like a guy like Jonathan Taylor. Like, yeah, he's an elite back, but he's going to be splitting time with other guys, and these other guys you're getting a leader in the backfield for $15 cheaper than the most expensive player. I'll take Mixon any day on that. And then let's go Now we got our running backs. Let's go for some other underrated guys. Somebody like Deontay Johnson. I think Tre'Davious White is going to shadow Claypool this week. Claypool, usually an outside guy. Deontay is more of a slot kind of guy. I can see, especially if Pittsburgh's trailing, Big Ben will be targeting him a lot. I can see big potential there. Keenan Allen, I think, is really cheap, but for good reason. He's playing Washington, one of the best defenses in the NFL. Herbert could be flustered in that game. So we're going to go with a guy like DJ Moore, who is facing the Jets defense. And there's not much improvement on that side of the ball. So I think Moore is going off potential. So going on that. So again, we look at the team like we have Mixon and Gordon. One thing that we could do here is take a cheap defense, let's say like the Bengals. Now, do I think the Bengals are an elite defense? Are they going to stop Minnesota? Probably not. But again, touchdowns for defenses can be very random. And let's say they get a fumble inside the 1 yard line, Mixon scores. That's a stack we have already. And again, defenses are cheap that so long as they're not getting completely blown out, then it could work well in our favor. But on second thought, so I'm going to do the same strategy, but with the Broncos. I'm going to use them again with Melvin Gordon because I think that this price is unbelievable. We can also go with the 49ers too. Yeah, so since we already used the Broncos, we're going to use the 49ers in this case. And then what we're going to do is we're going to flex Mostert. And that'll give us some high upside as well. Because I think the 49ers are going to be up all game. They're going to be running it a lot. And this could be a stack that works well in our favor. Now we got $84 left. Let's go at tight end. We're going to look for someone like Jonnu Smith. Patriots love to use their tight ends. Now we're at $69. We have a lot of money to spend. Let's go for an elite stack here. Devontae Adams, no Marshawn Lattimore, and Aaron Rodgers is just too cheap. So we're going to go with a little bit of a different stack here. Okay, so instead of Devontae Adams, we're going to go with like a Stephon Diggs, and then a QB, we're going to go with Josh Allen. We're at $2, but we don't care. Our goal isn't to fill our lineup to the top. It's just to get a good lineup. It doesn't have to be the whole budget. We like this lineup. We're going to set it. So we got our stack, and actually we're going to look at Mixon, see if we can get a better replacement. Again, we could go Gibson over Mixon, and thinking about it, yeah, we're going to keep Mixon in there just as like a contrarian play. Because we don't know how many people are going to go for Mixon. Gibson could be very popular. There's been a lot of hype about him. Aaron Jones would be pretty popular. So we're going to keep this lineup. Last but not least, the last kind of lineup we're going to do is a total contrarian lineup where this is the Yahoo Cup. This is 1 million entries. So $1 million on the line, weekly prizes. It's a free entry, so a lot of entries. So we're just going to I made this lineup on a whim. This is not the kind of lineup I want for this kind of competition. A lot of popular players in here. We are going to go full contrarian strategy. So how do we do that? We're going to go with a stack that probably nobody is thinking about. And this is one I liked. So Trevor Lawrence is very cheap. We could go with him. Hurts is also very cheap. Burrow. We're going to look at try to find one of these guys that we think is underrated, and we're gonna go with something completely out of the blue. Mac Jones. Miami's a pretty good defense, but we know one thing, that Mac Jones likes targeting Jacoby Myers, and look how cheap that stack is right there. If we can get even decent production out of these two guys, then we can put a guy like McCaffrey in who can easily elevate our lineup, and we could be in for going off potential. And the strategy I mentioned before about the defenses, so let's take a guy like, let's take something like the Jaguars defense. There could be a lot of turnovers in this game. And then you put in James Robinson there. Those two combined, they could stack points if we get like a fumble inside the goal line. So then we have to be conservative for last remaining plays, but we're gonna go with a cheap tight end, like a Prayer, like a guy like a Dan Arnold, or maybe not Dan Arnold because we have McCaffrey, but I don't want to get into $10 guys. Let's go with someone like Anthony Ferkser, who could get. We know that Tannehill likes throwing the tight ends near the goal line. If he gets a touchdown, this lineup could boom. And then we want other guys. We're going to target for our last, we're going to go with 3 receivers here. And we're going to target guys on bad teams who are likely to be trailing and could catch some late balls. So looking at the list here. So I mentioned that I like the Jets this week. Where is he? Corey Davis. This is a very good price for him. But, there exists a possibility that the Jets could be trailing. And if we're thinking about game script, we have McCaffrey in here. We put Corey Davis in here. If the game script goes that McCaffrey gets early touchdowns and the Panthers take the lead, that could translate into Corey Davis getting a lot of action. And let's see how Brandon Cooks is. He's $18. We're going to put him in that lineup for... actually, since we're starting a Jaguars defense, we're not going to do that. We're going to go for a different strategy. Something like, if the Patriots are throwing the ball out, then could mean the Dolphins are throwing the ball out. Now, would I dare put a rookie in my fantasy lineup in the first game? Probably not. But what if he breaks out this game? Then we have him there. Now, I went way under budget, but I did this for a reason. Now we can see a bunch of guys who you can insert in your lineup cheaply and get maximum production out of. And the reason I say Waddle is because we have Jones and Myers as a stack. If this turns into a shootout and Waddle gets points, it translates for both. Again, we're going to want to go optimal game scripts, because if this all hits, we could do very well. But there's a very likely chance this lineup doesn't do well at all. But it's a free contest anyway. Might as well go for it. But we're not going to do Waddle because we have more money. We're going to pay up for some other guys. So Calvin Ridley should feast. I'm not worried about Darius Slay. And then let's see. And then we're going to go Travis Kelce. So, again, Ferks are here, but we're paying up for all these other guys. We're going to punt this position and hope for the best for the rest of these positions. But so we're going to save that lineup, and again, we're going to look up all our lineups. So this is the shot in the dark lineup that we're putting in. Okay. Upcoming. So that's the 50-50 lineup we put in. I like that lineup a lot. This is the competition lineup. That's pretty good. And then I made a couple other lineups that are going to look very similar to the ones we already put. So like Damon Harris is very cheap, and I did the Burrow and Boyd stack. I have Hopkins in a lot of these lineups. A.J. Brown. Tanyan was a good price. I think you can catch him touchdowns. Jets were a cheap defense. And another lineup with Dalvin Cook, and then a Trevor Lawrence, Marvin Jones Jr. stack. And I like Jones over a guy like Chark or Chenault because Lawrence seemed to develop a connection with Jones, and I think more people know about Chenault than Jones. So considering Jones is more experienced and Houston's defense is awful, this could be another good stack. And yeah, Noah Fant too. Giants couldn't stop Titans last year. I'm not sure if that's going to change or not because they're pretty strong in every other position on defense besides their linebackers. But yeah, and then that's our Shot in the Dark lineup. Okay, so that's done. We're going to go back. I'm going to end the screen recording real quick. Nope. All right. Okay. So that's done. Good luck this weekend on your fantasy lineups. Sorry about my voice. Early morning. You know how it goes. This is Saturday morning. We're going to get ready for Sunday. And let's enjoy our first week of football back. Side note, so for the Thursday night game, we said Bucks -8, and obviously that didn't cover. But if we all probably watched the game, understand that there's a very good chance that it would have covered had Godwin not fumbled on the 1 yard line. If he doesn't fumble there, we're talking a whole different story. We cover, we make our money. Cowboys probably have to go for a touchdown. They might not get it. So those are the kind of losses we have to take on the chin, and not simply a bad prediction, but more so just got to take it and roll with it. We got to go for at least 55 to 60% of our wins. We can't win them all. So next week, we're going to come back for the picks stronger than ever, and I'm still a big believer in the rest of my picks for this weekend. So that's it. Good luck in all your lineups, your fantasy leagues, your picks, your spread picks, all that. And I will see you guys next week for the week recap and survivor picks. And this is Shoop signing out.